So now we're on to Mod 3. What Mod 3 is about, and you know what the schedule is, but we're going to give you some background information. We know about the strategic model and flow. And so what are some of the tenets regarding strategic management that we see from the literature? And so one of the big areas is talking about management by objective. Management by objective has its pros and cons. The thing that you have to be really, really careful about strategy is the strategy doesn't become bigger than the mission. And that's the problem with things like Six Sigma and things like that, that people get so obsessed with the process, like in Six Sigma, that they want to check off boxes. And it's like, yeah, but what's the point? Management by objective keeps you focused, and that's that you focus on what the objective is. However, there's the dark side of management by objective, that people are so focused on the objective. The question is that objective correlating with what it is that you want to do? And also, Drucker came up with the concept of the knowledge worker, that the person who knows the most should be doing that job. Now, the thing about knowledge workers is actually in networking and in network theory, they found the person who's most knowledgeable tends to be the best networked in the hub of a network. Your strategic planning at times can be more art than science, and that's that you have a lot of things to consider, and you also have to consider your people. How are they going to all coordinate? And there's a lot of different moving pieces. And the other part of it is, as Americans, what are we? We're like super competitive. And that's not what you need here. You need to have cooperation. I was in a startup with these Stanford, don't get me started. Hey, you know how many Stanford people it takes to screw in a light bulb? One. They hold it and the world revolves around them. Anyway. The question is, who has autonomy, who needs to report to people? These are all issues that you need to take into consideration as you build your management. The Japanese have divided their systems into what they refer to as the 7 S's. The thing about the Japanese is in the 1980s, they started really like kicking America around, and a lot of people were scared of it. I wasn't. I wasn't, for the simple reason they do have great execution, and they do have great collaboration. The problem, though, is to be innovative and to pioneer something, you need individuals. You need individuals who can come up with these ideas and all, not basically have groupthink. One thing I do not believe in, I do not believe in 100% consensus, because by definition, if you do something that makes everybody happy, you have mediocrity. However, I do believe in 100% understanding. And that's that everyone understands why you're doing what you're doing and where you are. One time Sony came in and actually talked to my team. And then one of the Sony reviewers came to me and said, "Oh, I'm so impressed with your people." He said, "They're so knowledgeable." And he said, "I was talking with that engineer, Beth." Beth was actually a technician. And that's how deep that I have my people trained. Tom Peters, I actually have been to Tom Peters' talks. He's a man who has a really big voice and can really scream at you. He was screaming at us, "What are you doing about China?" And it's like, what, should we send in bombers or something? It's, I'm going to order food at lunchtime. But what Tom Peters was about is, wow. It's like, what makes an excellent company? And so a well-trained workforce and those that try to always impress. And it's also in little things where you try to impress the customer. And so, for example, bathrooms. And it's like you showed a bathroom where you can do very simple things, like, put in flowers, put in little drapes, make sure it's clean. I mean, it doesn't take much. When you develop a strategic plan, the thing to think about is, what kind of structure do you want? In certain cases, hierarchical makes sense. In a lot of cases, it doesn't. You want a flat organization. On the other hand, if it's too flat, then how do you make a decision? Someone has to have the call. IT is a very central part of it. How do you share that knowledge? And you have to think about what type of culture do you want. And what comes out of that culture is the types of rules and everything else you have. The culture I always had on my team, the big joke is I had a motorcycle gang. And that's what you need for research, though. You need people who are going to be brash. You need to have people who are confident. And you have to have people who aren't scared. And guess what? These guys will all fight for each other. And that's one thing to consider about people. People will fight to the end for either a cause or for the person next to them. Money and things like that, they're better off rewards, but they don't necessarily make good incentives. And this is what I like to find people who are throat cutters, not cutthroats. Cutthroats are people who stab you in the back. Throat cutters are people who, when they solve problems, they kill it. In research, we call research projects the dragon. When you get it down, solve it to the level where it's not going to pop up again. And that's where you see a lot of bad engineering. They think they have problems solved, and they really don't. And so you need to think about how much autonomy you give people to. For myself, what I do is every employee has got a line. And this is how far I trust you. And the more you can do, then the more I keep raising the line. And some people have infinite lines. I'll have faith to them to the very end, even to the degree I'll back them up. Where if they're going to fire them, they're going to have to fire me too. And I've actually done that. And this is why you build credibility with your workers. On the other hand, if you don't succeed in all, then how much I trust you is going to start going down. So formulate your goals and objectives. Understand yourself, and how are you going to implement your strategy? T.J. Rogers said that he thinks that a lot of strategy is overblown. He thinks a large part of it is you need to show up and you need to execute. And so when you think about your goals, think about what are the factors that are going to drive it, your success factors. Start off with broad goals and then work your way down. And so for each goal, identify a few specific objectives. And then from that, you can come out with your task. So it's going to look something like this. And so here's an example of a strategic plan that was done here at ASU. And a big part of this is actually balanced scorecard. And that's that you need to figure out, am I being successful or not successful? And so the question is how are you going to do your evaluation to know that you're on track? And so here's an example of the goals and objectives. I think it's pretty straightforward. When you talk about goals and objectives, you need to talk about time, resources, and what kind of impact it's actually going to have. And so the second goal is given here. And so this is about the school and how they're going to launch certain things and the portfolio and the tasks involved. You now seem like what are the efforts in the strategic managing and planning process. And so read through it and think through it for these own businesses that you're looking at. The thing is, when you do your final project, if all you do is copy off what they're saying, I'm going to ding you on it. What I want you to do is the company you pick or whatever, I want you to look at it with a blank sheet of paper. Don't think about what they want to do. Think about what you think they should do. And you can use the way the company actually exists right now to be your initial starting point.